If you've been hearing about the Divine Nine and the election, stay tuned and meet members of the Divine Nine right here in Michigan. Thank you for being with us here today. Rousseau, y'all look so great. I can almost tell which sorority, fraternity you belong to based on the colors. But what is a Divine Nine and when was it created?
Sure. So the Divine Nine is a form of our Greek organizations. We were founded in the 1930s to address some of the most pertinent issues in our community. And we are service-based organizations. We pride ourselves on scholarship and making sure that our communities have the resources that they need.
Fantastic. And how many people are there 9 organizations, both fraternities and sororities in the Divine Nine?
Absolutely. And I serve as the president of our local chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, the first
Black and gold.
Greek intercollegiate letter organization in America. And
You had to throw in the first in there, huh?
the first, every time. Absolutely.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here with us. As we talk about election, and we talk about the upcoming election, what are some of the priority issues, anyone, that are important to the Divine Nine and to you?
So some of the issues that our organization is particularly concerned about in this season are economic empowerment, access to quality education, community service, and community safety. These things that particularly impact our communities, and we want to make sure that all of the voters out there are educated and use their right to vote.
How do you do that?
By making sure that people tune in to AARP's Real Possibilities TV, and so that they can vote and use their rights this season.
And the check is in the mail. Thank you. As we talk about the election, one of the things we're hearing more and more about is women, that this is the time for the woman. What issues as a woman, what issues are important, particularly African-American women have been the key in deciding the last general election and also many of the local elections. It's been the African-American woman that has really carried the successful candidate over to the finish line. Why do you think that is? What's the trend that now, at a time, we couldn't even vote, so now we are like, we're the power, we're the source, behind success. So what do you think? What's the trend behind that? Why is that happening?
Thank you so much, Paula, for asking that question, because one of the things that is pertinent and resonates with me is the fact that at one point in time, a room full of women that looked like you and I could not vote and were excluded even from the women's suffrage movement to look at voting for women. So the motivation for me and the motivation for my sorority, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, is looking at how we place women in positions of power and influence, and then backing those women to make sure that we're voting for and supporting people who share our same interests, our goals for moving our communities forward. So that's a motivation that I personally have, because we were excluded. And then when we came to the civil rights movement, then we were able to hear our voices and make our voices be heard. And that for me is the most important thing, because now we're doing that 60 years later with so many women, especially women of color, who are pushing the needle forward and helping to galvanize our communities.
And that's a lesson too, that you persevere. You never give up. I heard someone say the other day that every generation has a responsibility to advance the next generation. And sometimes it seems like we might be going backwards, but you can't give up. You got to keep on. And that's part of what the focus and the mission of the Divine Nine coming together is, to education, community, safety. That's part of what your agenda is all about. How does that agenda get set? Do you come together and decide what you're going to do? Do you do it individually? How does the agenda for the Divine Nine get set?
Well, we do have a Council of Presidents for our National Panhellenic Council, and that Council of Presidents represents all of our international presidents of our individual sororities and fraternities, and they will come together and set the agenda for the collective. And so that's how we then kind of take our marching orders, and we work to make sure that that collective and that agenda set at the top is then implemented on the ground.
So this is a bonus question for anybody. People don't know how many, we talk about your groups, but nationwide, how many, anyone know the number, how many AKAs, how many Omegas, how many Alphas that there are? I mean, when they all come together, it could be pretty powerful.
Right.
And how many chapters they have? Anyone know that number?
Well, I just know if I can speak for Alpha Kappa Alpha. I know that from a collective from the National Panhellenic Council, we're talking about well over 1 million initiated members in our individual sororities and fraternities. For Alpha Kappa Alpha, we have 360,000 members, over 1,024 chapters nationwide and abroad. So again, that collective is important, and it is what galvanizes the movement.
That's powerful. We just did a ARP college called The Power of Us. When we lift our voices together, the power that you have. So you exemplify that here today. Thank you for that. One of the things at ARP that we are always listening to the voices of our members. We've got 1.7 million members throughout this great state. And caregiving is always at the top of their list. The people, loved ones are taking care of loved ones. You just do it. You don't even think about yourself as a caregiver. If you're helping someone mow a lawn or taking them to an appointment or helping them with their meds or whatever, caregiving is huge. So as we talk about caregiving, how important is that issue to your organizations?
Yeah, the issue of caregiving is extremely important to myself as well as my chapter. As you know, most of the time it's going to be women who take that lead in caregiving. Some of the concerns I have experienced and heard other people experience is the resources. To be able to identify the resources, people to assist you, whether it's taking care of your child. I also have a disabled child at home. She has a disability. So I have personal experience with trying to find resources and assistance as well as financially, and I even crosses over to taking care of our parents. I'm on the verge of that, taking care of my mom.
That sandwich generation.
Correct. I just raised my child with disability. Now I got to cross over to taking care of my mom. So again, finding those variety of resources for a person with a disability or your aging parents, and then to be able to financially afford it. You're dealing with insurance companies, whether they can and can't afford it or pay for it. You're dealing with qualifications. So far with community mental health and also Office of Aging, they have criteria they put in place to see if you qualify, for the actual services. So that's something that's I feel is definitely an issue. Knowing where to go, your resources, and the financial aspect of it.
And we don't plan for that. When you are in your 20s or 30s, no one's talking to anybody about long-term care or how you might need additional help. So it can be a real burden. I know we try to get some legislation passed just to help caregivers, a tax credit, $5,000 tax credit. You have to build a ramp. You have to widen the bathroom door. You have to get a wheelchair. You have to get bars. All that comes out of pocket right now if you don't qualify for other types of services. So thank you for what you're doing too, for both your daughter, and that's just what you do. I mean, we appreciate what you're doing, and your mom or your family. It's what we do. It's the village that takes care of each other. Thank you for that. The other one is financial security, and it ties into caregiving, right? I mean, if you don't have the money, health is wealth, wealth is health. So if you don't have the money, you really are challenged. And so when we talk about Social Security, like the year 2034, I believe it is, that we might only get 80% of our earned Social Security. So just think about that. You've earned this, you paid into it. It's not like a handout. It's not an entitlement. It's, excuse my language, it's your money. It's your money. You've earned that. And someone to tell you that you're only going to get 80% of it unless something happens. How important is Social Security and financial security to your organization?
It's very important. First of all, let me say thank you for inviting the D9.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming up.
A great
Thanks
experience.
to Teresa Beeman for pulling y'all together too. This is awesome. Yeah.
It's been a great experience. When we talk about financial issues, that umbrella covers everything from wages to taxes to interest rates to mortgage rates to the cost of consumer goods. It covers a huge spectrum. And when you talk about Social Security, the concerns of my organization and most Americans is, will Social Security be available when I retire? How will alleged Social Security reform affect me? So those are important issues.
Do you think it will be?
I'm hoping so.
Yeah. I'm telling you, we got 1.7 million people over 50 going to fight like what to make sure it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So when you exercise your right to vote, you play a vital role in choosing candidates that are fighting for your needs and what you consider important. And financial stability and Social Security are two main issues when you talk about choosing a candidate that's going to look out for your best interests.
Powerful. Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, people always, so much focuses on national election, right? You know, the presidential elections, senatorial, but the local elections are so important too. Who sits on the bench in the, you know, in the circuit court and the probate court and even just traffic signs and the ordinances and things like that in the neighborhood. So I always say an educated voter is a powerful voter. Any vote, everyone should vote, but educate yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah, educate yourself. You know, we talked again about women, and I kind of like the topic of women for a lot of reasons because of the journey, the history that we've gone through. But what would you say to other women, anyone, about why they should vote and why it's important? I'm going to ask each of you that too. Just why is it important for people to vote? So I'm going to ask you. You got the mic? You go first.
I do.
Okay. All right.
Thank you very much for the invitation. I just wanted to say that it's important as far as our legacy. It was mapped out for us back in 1920, and that's the year that our organization was established, that we have 1920, August of 1920, the Congress ratified the amendment for us, for women to vote.
Right.
But because of discriminatory practices, we as Black women didn't come until later, correct? And so we are standing on that legacy. We're not looking back, we're looking forward, and we're going to be strong in bringing the things that we need for our family, our community, to move our agenda forward.
Yeah, and that's powerful. I mean, we owe a debt of gratitude to the people who fought before us to be able to vote. And it's disrespectful for you not to take advantage of that opportunity that they fought and died for.
That's correct.
Absolutely. So let's talk. I want each of you to answer that. Why is it important? Anyone, whoever wants to go next. Brandon, I think they're handing you the mic. So why is it important? Just think about that. What would you say to people, particularly a lot of young people or people who are somewhat apathetic, or people who think, oh, it's not going to make a difference? What would you say to them?
I would say it's our right, Miss Paula, because like you said, many people have fought and died for us to have the right to vote. And many years ago, we couldn't. So we should exercise our right and to get out and vote and make sure our voices are heard.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Anyone else? Go ahead.
As we're looking at our right to vote and the importance of it, we really need to look at voting for our interest and voting in our best interest. And a lot of times people vote for different reasons along different affiliations, but we really need to look at all the information. We need to make sure that we're fully educated. We need to make sure that we register those that need to vote. And then we need to make sure that we mobilize those people to the polls. And that's the only way that we can really affect the change that we want to see.
So I'm sitting at home and I'm saying, yeah, everybody's talking about voting, but nothing's changed for me. And so why should I get out and vote? I'm just going to do my own thing.
For me, it's important to vote because we preserve our rights and our freedoms. As a woman, my reproductive health is on the ballot. And so it's important to stand up and exercise your right to vote. We are fighting for health care. We're fighting for affordable child care, fair wages, and more. And as a Black woman, I understand and respect the fact that I can determine the outcome of this election, and I embrace that power. And more than ever, I am determined and I'm dedicated to bring more people to the polls.
That's great. Great. Thank you. Anyone else want to respond to that? Go ahead.
Pretty much the same as what my sister said, that, we did earn the right to vote. Our ancestors died for that. And I always tell young people that they died for that. And I also feel it's important to vote to take control of your life, make a stance, have input, on some decisions that's made about your life. And your comment about people were saying, well, it doesn't make a difference. It does make a difference. Maybe you don't see the results, immediate results, but it does make a difference. And when you don't vote, you letting somebody else make a decision for you and about you.
Right. That's the first question I usually ask people when they start complaining. Did you vote? Did you vote? Yeah. Well, even if it didn't go your way, did you at least lift your own voice and say something? So, yeah, I appreciate that. Anyone else before we go on to the next one? Yeah.
I think it's particularly important for everyone to use their rights to vote just because we live in the most diverse nation in the world. And if we do not use our individual voices to vote, we're not going to reflect the diverse democracy that we also cherish. Also, in respects to women, with reproductive rights being on the ballot this year, as a newly married person, I want to make sure that I'm doing my part to protect my wife's reproductive health so that she can get the care that she needs, when we are able to start a
Lucky
family. one
woman,
day.
good for you. Congratulations, too.
Thank you.
Congratulations on that. Why should, there are a lot of young men who also feel very apathetic right now about voting, and a lot of people just don't think it makes a difference. Talk to the men out there and tell them why they should vote.
So to them, I would say that we're the leaders that we've been waiting for. And it's our time to step up and be the men that our community need us to be. Now, it's true that voting won't be able to fix all of our issues in our community. That's a factual statement. But it's equally true that we would not be able to make any progress whatsoever if we don't vote at all. The fact of the matter is, our community need us to step up to the plate, to take up our responsibility, and to say to our public officials, to say to those who would take our rights away, not only are we here, not only are we informed, we are executing and acting on our power, our collective power. That's why it's so powerful that we're standing here before you, us as the Divine Nine organizations that we are, because we each represent different sects in our community. However, we join together under one mission, one banner this election, telling you to go out and vote.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's very powerful. Very well said.
Just to piggyback off what everyone else was saying, why should you vote? Right now, we're about 30 steps from the state capitol. There's decisions being made in that building that will affect all of us. And I think it's only right that we have a say-so on who sits in those seats to make decisions about us. That's just how important it is.
And, I'm at the point where I don't even want people to tell me if they haven't voted. That's how upset I get. So if you don't, so I'm just saying to the whole state of Michigan, if you didn't vote and you and I are talking, don't tell me you didn't vote, please, because then my blood pressure goes up, things start happening inside. It's just such an important right, privilege that we have. So I appreciate that. In your community, you're all doing work in the community. And you talked about education, you talked about being involved in the community, you talked about a variety of things. So what's the priority issue for your community where you are, for the organizations you're? What do you need to see change in the communities? Housing, transportation, caregiving. What are some of the important issues in your communities? And it doesn't have to be the same for everybody.
I think one important issue, especially for Phi Beta Sigma, is our youth. I'm proud to say that our organization runs one of the longest running youth workshops for young men in the community. It's held every year, the first Thursday in February, where we bring in students from all area local high schools. We have guest speakers, we have workshops, then we have a keynote speaker. And we also offer a career fair where we have different employers come in and speak to students about career opportunities. And a lot of these career jobs don't require a degree. A lot of them require training, which the company will pay for. So it's something that we've been doing. We're coming up on our 33rd year. So we're very
congratulations.
proud of
That's
that.
awesome. You should be, as well you should be. We've got about 30 seconds left. Anyone else want to say what's going on in your community, what's happening, or something that you want to, this is your chance to promote something that your organization is doing in the community to help the community.
Absolutely. So the issue of food insecurity. So the Lansing Alphas have been partnered with the Lansing Mobile Food Pantry for over 12 years, providing food for those most vulnerable in our community, as well as we partner with the Lansing Alumni Chapter and the East Lansing Alumni Chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated for our First Fam First Wednesdays. We've been having for the past 2 years. At any given First Fam First Wednesday, we're serving at least 260 people. So that's every month that we're doing that. Absolutely.
Are you doing that every Wednesday?
Every first Wednesday
Every
of the month.
first Wednesday of the month. I
Yes.
serve on the Michigan Association, on the Food Bank Council for Michigan. And they always say, if you're hungry, you don't have any other problems. That's the number one problem. If you're hungry, then that's the number one problem. You don't have it, you just got to eat. And there's the difference between being hungry and having food insecurity, right? Food insecurity, you don't know where your next, I'm hungry right now, quite frankly, but insecurity, you don't know where your next meal's coming from. Thank you all so much. You are just phenomenal in terms of what you do. I know you each could talk about your organizations, but our time is up today. So I appreciate you. Thank you for what you do. This community thanks you for what you do. You're just a great representation of what it means to be a real true community member and to help that next generation. Thank you so much. Appreciate you being here. Thank you. Everyone should be paying attention to the term direct care worker, family caregiver, what it means, and how you can get involved in making certain you have the best direct care workforce possible. Claire, thank you for being here. Talk with us about direct care workers and how people can get involved.
Sure. So direct care workers augment family caregivers and make it possible for people to stay at home or live as independently as possible. They go by many, many names. One thing we have to do through Impart Alliance and the State Direct Care Workforce Advisory Committee is come up with some common language around, who direct care workers are, how do we refer to them, what do they do? And it's important for family members to learn as much as possible about the issue, the shortage, who direct care workers are, what do they do, why are they important, why is there a shortage, and what can they do to help address the shortage? And I would just like to say that anybody, whether family caregiver, direct care worker, policymaker, people receiving services, everybody can make a difference in changing this problem that we're facing right now. To learn more about direct care workers, you can go to our website. You can join our statewide coalition. We have 2,000 members right now. And all you have to do to become a member is get your name on our email list. And we will be sending out e-blasts to provide updated information, action alerts that can walk you through how to make a difference, how to have common messaging so that we're all saying the same thing. And we need to do that to change policy, otherwise we're counterproductive. So it's an exciting time, there's a lot happening, and we invite everybody to get involved.
Thank you so much for the work you do. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thanks for this
being here.
opportunity.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Kevin Duffy. I'm a physician assistant from Great Lakes Center of Rheumatology. I'm here to talk to you today about hand pain. Many people present to their physician with hand pain, and some of the symptoms they complain of are achy pain, stiffness in the morning, can't hold on to things, numbness, tingling. If you have those issues, it's probably worthwhile trying to figure out what's wrong. Some of the causes of hand pain can be just wear and tear, osteoarthritis, could be rheumatoid arthritis, carpal tunnel syndrome. You could have a pinched nerve in your neck. And so for that reason, a lot of people say, well, what should I do for my hand pain? I think the best thing to do is contact your primary care physician to start. They may order x-rays, which could shed some light on what your problem is. They may try you on non-steroidal anti-inflammatory medicines or Tylenol. If some of those work, I would stay with conservative treatments. If the symptoms persist, you may want to request a referral to a specialist. You might want to see an orthopedic surgeon, orthopedic hand surgeon, and or a rheumatologist. Occasionally, you might need to see a physical medicine rehab doctor if you need nerve studies done. But some of the testing you can do are x-rays. Different forms of arthritis have different kinds of x-rays. And so once you figure out what your definitive diagnosis is, you can formulate a treatment plan, which would consist of NSAIDs, physical therapy, occupational therapy. If you have an autoimmune disease, you may need more advanced treatment, such as biologic drugs and advanced imaging. But at any rate, if you see your PCP and get the correct referrals, I'm sure you could feel better.
Driving. We all have to make difficult decisions someday about whether to continue to drive or not to continue to drive and what options are available. So thank you for being here to talk about those options. People often think, okay, I have to have that tough conversation with a loved one, but there are some creative solutions, even more creative than getting on a bus, right?
Sure. One of those solutions is My Ride app that's available for people that use our paratransit services. And
what's paratransit?
Paratransit are services for CATA. It is demand response, curb to curb
Okay,
service.
all right, sorry. I just wanted to make sure people knew what that meant.
Sure.
So what are the options?
One of the other things that we're working on is mobility microtransit, and so those are similar to paratransit services, but there will be a way to schedule those trips, such as Uber and Lyft does today. So we're looking at that and figuring out ways that we can incorporate that, especially to better serve the rural communities and give them the transportation access that they need.
What other options do rural communities have if they don't have like a CATA or someone coming into their community?
There's not
critical.
a whole lot out there, Paula, unfortunately, and that is very unique to CATA. Most urban transit systems serve the urban core, and CATA is reaching out to the Stockbridges and the Onondagas, et cetera, to provide transportation access.
Do you find there's any hesitancy with older adults wanting to get involved with CATA?
I don't think so. We have quite a big population of riders that make up the senior community, and I think they're very realistic about the need to look at additional services other than driving themselves.
I'm telling you, I'd give my car up in a heartbeat. So, so it's not about age all the time, is
We'd
it?
love to have you on board, Kat.
Thank you so much for being here. I want to talk today about why long-term care is so expensive. And back in the day, our grandparents kind of made it through sitting in a rocking chair on the porch. Why is it so much more expensive?
Yeah, Paula, let me put you in a rocking chair on a porch.
That's not going to work,
and we'll
David.
see how
I
well
said my
you like
grandparents.
It. That's right, right.
Not even my parents.
Well, I blame ARP.
Oh, you do?
I do. I blame ARP because you kind of raised our expectations about what this part of life is going to be like.
It's great.
Now, well, it's a good thing. Yeah, I'm not really arguing with it. But as medical science has progressed, we're all living longer, and more importantly, we're living healthier, right? And as our expectations of what our life is going to be like is up, right? And so we're living longer, all the rest. But what we didn't do that our parents did was have a ton of kids.
To take care of us.
Right, there are 8 kids in my family, okay? None of it, I had 4, that was as far as it got, right? So the demand for services, the demand for care is going way up. There's this thing called the baby boom, you may have heard of it, right? So it's going up, we have high expectations, but we didn't have as many kids. So
Supply and demand.
Supply and demand. Demand for services up, supply of caregivers down, plus the church lady who used to hang out and help out, she's not around anymore.
And the cost for a registered nurse is
$100 an hour. You want a registered nurse to come in. And of course, you can always get the teenager, with the purple hair. She'll show up, or he'll show up, for $30 an hour. What are we supposed to do?
we're supposed to get more direct care workers into our homes. That's
There
what we're
you
supposed
go.
to do. All right, thank you, David. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Paul.
We always hear such powerful stories on AARP Real Possibilities, and today was no exception. Thank you for watching.